Not only is it very exciting that Godzilla vs. King Kong is about to launch in the theaters, but I have this amazing giant Godzilla statue in front of me. Now this video launches a few days before the epic movie, it might be epic, hopefully epic, Kong vs. Godzilla. But who are we kidding? Kong, who can't beat a few 1942 airplanes, versus a radioactive dragon that nuclear weapons can't hurt. Now don't get me wrong, I'm not rooting for either one to win. I actually hope that they become a same-sex couple and adopt a child. Now we'll find that out in a few days, but today we're going to find out how awesome is this giant Godzilla statue that was once a crazy unpainted garage kit that my wife did some magic with. See, honey, you have skills, not just in the bedroom. To give back to you guys, the Extreme Channel is giving away this giant Goro statue from PCS for our 20,000 sub giveaway. If you want to know how to win this, I'll tell you a little bit later in this video. Hey guys, thanks for tuning in. Really excited to share this piece with you. I alluded to a few reasons why in the intro. So this is in anticipation of the new Kong vs. Godzilla movie that's coming out. I actually plan to pair this piece with a Kong statue, the one I showed in the thumbnail. This Kong vs. Skullcrawler from Prime 1 Studios. You can actually check out the review of this piece right here. Now I'm going to display him right next to Kong at the office. Now, if you want to see what that looks like, go ahead and check out the Extreme Channel Instagram, Facebook, and now TikTok page. The link is in the description below. But this statue is very special for me. As I said in the intro, it actually came as a garage kit. What that means is not only was it unpainted, but none of the pieces fit together. There's no magnets. And I think all in all, it was around 50 different pieces. So my wife, who recently got into painting, her first piece she ever did was this thing right here. It was a big old rocky thing that she really liked. She took on this, she learned how to put magnets in statues, eliminate seams, and we had some really challenging art direction with the paint. The reason for that, anytime you see Godzilla, or Zilly as Mrs. X calls him in the movies, it's very, very dark. Sometimes he looks green, sometimes gray, sometimes blue, sometimes black. Well, her and I agreed on this like we agree on everything else, and we decided to go this direction. So we'll go into more detail when we look at the paint of this piece. Now today we're not going to do the assembly. However, Mrs. X did record herself not only painting this, but putting together some of those pieces, installing the magnets, and we're going to do a separate video on that. So if you want to see what that looks like, make sure you've not only liked this video, but you subscribe to the channel and you've hit that bell notification so you know when it launches. And the last disclaimer, it's highly likely that my wife is going to be watching this video. So when we get to the paint section of this, we are not going to give any negative scores. It's a 5 out of 5, I can tell you that right now. But let's dive into the extreme review. We're going to use all the traditional categories, and this is an amazing piece. It's an amazing sculpt. There are some awesome switch out options that I can't wait to show you guys. Now we're going to start with concept. However, I can let you know right now that the concept slightly changes depending on which switch out options we're using. But nonetheless, this is a very unique piece for a lot of reasons. First, as we start at the bottom, you'll see there is no base. I actually quite like that. I almost think that if you were to put a base in here, it would really scale the piece. So he'd look kind of stupid next to Kong, where I think he's gonna be about the same size, which I anticipate they will be in the movie. But he's standing kind of in a pansy stance, to be honest with you. However, I still wouldn't mess with a dragon that is bigger than buildings. What I love about this is some of the intricate detail you see in him. Now there's a few things in the paint you're gonna see. Like I said, we decided to go on a specific direction, which I'll talk about. But I love how giant his tail is. I love how a lot of the shaping of the body is very true to that traditional Godaiju or Godzilla piece. And it looks fantastic. It really reminds me of a mix between the older movies and the newer movies together. And I think they pulled it off fantastically. As you see on here, the spikes on the back have some blue, some of that blue radiation to insinuate he's about to light up. And again, we'll talk more about why we did that direction when we get to the paint. His portrait, you have 3 different options we'll talk about. They all look fantastic, and I think they all go well with this piece. So I like the fact that it's very different with no base. I think that eliminates a lot of restrictions on how you're going to display this. It also helps that the base would be gigantic. It'd probably be bigger than this turntable right here, which I believe is 24 inches by 24 inches. And we'll get the dimensions in a second. And obviously just a ton of presence. So I think the concept's a 4 out of 5 on this piece. Really, really excited about it. Now with design, there's a ton of different stuff going on. So as I said, Mrs. X installed magnets and everything, some things she permanently glued, but I can tell you as it sits now, the neck and the heads are all connected, so that's one piece. The middle torso, the arms, the legs, and then the back tail are the separate pieces. To give you an idea, this is how it came. It came in one box that was extremely light because a lot of pieces were hollow, which you can imagine makes it even harder to put magnets in it. But it came in, like I said, about 50 different individually wrapped pieces, and it was just nuts. So let's try and get some dimensions on this. Kind of tough, but if this was the front, that's what we'll call the front. We're going to say the depth is 27 inches or so, quite a bit. The widest point is probably his feet, about 17 inches. And the tallest point is his tail, right under 24 inches. Now, I told you there's different display options. So check it out. Right here is a closed mouth, and this is probably my least favorite. And we'll talk about why, I think, when we get to the paint. Here is an open, roaring mouth. Pretty cool, pretty vicious. But the coolest thing you can do with this is you have a roaring mouth using his radioactive breath to blow up a tank. This is fantastic. And here's a display of the mouth without the radioactive fire coming out of it, which I think looks pretty cool as well. Now, because it was a kit, there are still some decent seam lines that are almost impossible to get rid of. So here's one on his torso that's pretty big, and this is probably the biggest.
That's what she said.
And then another one on his tail that brings a little bit of attention to it. And now during that video we do on the painting, Mrs. X will show you, but quite a few of those had up to a 2 or 3 centimeter gap. So she honestly did a great job minimizing that. Now, one negative about the design is your display options. I think front on like this looks good. I think to the side like this looks good. However, the other side I am not digging at all. I think you lose quite a bit without seeing the portrait, but that does give you a better view of the tail and the spines on the back. So design, I'm going to give it a 4 out of 5. Now keep in mind that this took Mrs. X about 2 months to work on in her spare time. 1, because she's new at this. 2, because as I said, it's a garage kit. A garage kit is something that needs a ton of work on it. So now let's dive into the paint and sculpt of this piece, and we're going to do a video on it. And before we do, I want to talk about the reason that we chose gray. I actually got her to watch some of the Godzilla movies with me, the 2 newest ones. Then, of course, we're definitely going to watch Zilla vs. Kong in a few days here. But I think this was the best representation of him. You know, almost all the scenes, it was darker at night when he was coming out. We could have done a little bit more blue and green mixed in there. I really wanted the subtle blue we put on the spines we're going to take a look at to really show. And now that I'm looking at it now, I think I might have wanted to put a little bit of blue and green in it, which is great because I can always make her do it. You would not believe how easy she is to get to do things. But for now, let's look at this. All right, so let's start down here. So first of all, you know, she saw a lot of references where his nails weren't black, but I wanted to go black because, you know, once you go black, and I think she did a good job. One of the things you're going to notice all over him is it's a lot of matte paint, so it's a little bit dull. I think the black on the nails, and you'll see it on the fingernails as well, actually complements it pretty well. It's a good contrast with the gray color that she used. The nails, the one thing I don't like about them is the sculpt. I almost wish it was a little more like you typically see in some of the werewolf statues I've done, where there's not dents, they were a little more smooth, but that is with the actual sculpt. However, I love the sculpt on the skin. It's a mix between scales and ridges and spikes, and I think that it just looks awesome. It really gives you that reptilian, old dragon type look. And there's so much detail in this piece. I think they just did a fantastic job with the texturing on the body. It's really impressive. You can see the ridges coming out of the tail in the back here. And then the spines are spikes. So check these out. We had the choice of either leaving them the normal color, putting some of the radioactive blue on them, which is what she did, and she actually kind of just hand painted, filled in the lines, and I kind of like that contrast like I talked about. I think it's very subtle. He's getting ready to blow fire, and nonetheless, all these were actually separate pieces too, kind of an interesting fact. Look at the arms, they look great. Very dinosaur-like, dragon-like. Now, as you move up, check out his neck here. His portraits look fantastic, all the detail. There are a few places the detail got a little bit lost in the print. Some of them she actually, I don't even know what she did. She'll tell you she had to redo some of it. She even included the blue lines almost all the way to the back of the tail here. But let's get to the portraits, which is kind of, you know, the star of the show, the most difficult part for her to paint. Now, she initially left the teeth the same color that the kit was. It was an off-white, but then she went in and she gave it some of that yellowing and brown on there, and I think she did a great job. How clean the paint looks on the teeth. There's no runoff right here, and then I love the coloring she used on the inside. We went with more of a darker instead of a bright red because, you know, Godzilla being an older creature, him blowing the fire, but I think the gum work looks fantastic, and I'm not just saying that. And then initially she came, let me find, with these, and I didn't like the yellow on them at all. I'm still not a huge fan. I think it's the white behind it that I'm not digging, and I might have her redo this, but it looks way better than it originally did. She added that red and black line around it. And eyes, if you ask any statue painter, are the hardest part. So I think these are only the third eyes she's ever done. So I think we'll redo these on these portraits, but these are awesome. So this is the one, obviously the portrait that's blowing the fire. And I love what she did, the striations of white in there, and then the more of an oval black pupil in the middle, and that darker blue color looks awesome. I might have her do all the eyes like that because I think that's where it really shines. Now here is the flame. So this already came a more translucent blue resin. She just made it darker, and then she painted the tank green with the wheels below it black. Now the sculpt on this isn't the best. There wasn't a lot of detail. It almost looks like her paint's matting up on it, but it's not. It was actually the print on it. And again, kind of a side piece. You're more focused on Zilly, of course. So some really cool features in here. Definitely a very cool Godzilla statue. And pretty special considering how great Mrs. X is on so many levels. I said it. We already know the paint's a 5 out of 5, but this sculpt on this is amazing. There was so much detail in this, and this is what caught my eye on this piece when I originally put up the PO for it. So I love it. I think it's probably one of the best Godzilla sculpts out there. And in my opinion, the sculpt is a 5 out of 5 on this piece. So value on this piece. Obviously, if it doesn't come painted and you're not sleeping with someone who knows how to do it at no charge, there's a lot more invested into this piece. Retail price was $650 and they only made $30. That alone is a fantastic value. However, I'll let Mrs. X talk about a lot of the stuff she had to buy for this. While it wasn't expensive, it was a lot of different things. There are a lot of Godzilla statues out there, and I speculate there's going to be a lot more. However, not many of them are resin. A lot of them are more the vinyl, and there's not many in this monstrous size. So I think the value is pretty good overall. I think it's a 4 out of 5 on the value. Now the question is, does this have the X factor? Is this a 5 out of 5 statue? You know, I don't think it is. That's because I don't love Zilly as much as I do. I like Kong better than Zilly. So yes, I'm secretly hoping he wins, even though we know they're going to fight each other, and then they're going to join forces to defeat a common enemy. Prediction right here. To win this Goro statue, first thing you got to do is make sure you've liked this video, you've actually subscribed to the channel, and you've hit that bell notification. Second thing is leave a comment below, and make sure it's a witty, entertaining, or funny comment. Because when we hit 20,000 subscribers, I'm going to pick a random video, and the comment that has the most likes on it will be the winner of this Goro statue. So make sure your comment is entertaining to others and entertaining to Mr. X. Because if I like it, I'm actually going to pin it to the tops to help you get more likes. But I like it a lot. I think a lot of people are going to be drawn to it, especially with this mouth and the radioactive flame coming down. So I'm going to give it a 4 out of 5 overall. Very impressed with the piece. Like it a lot. I'm more impressed with what Mrs. X did. If you like what Mrs. X did, please show this video some love. Give it a like. Throw in a comment below. If you want to see that painting video, make sure to subscribe to the channel by hitting that picture of me. Thanks so much for watching, guys. Talk to you soon. Take care.